So when you think of the word tourism, what comes to mind? Maybe a fancy hotel somewhere, maybe a fancy beach in the Bahamas, or maybe even a Disney theme park. Well, when I think of tourism, I think of one of my absolute most favorite places in the entire world, and that is the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad. My name is Dana Allison, and today I'm going to give a presentation on this railroad and why I think it's important. And I have chosen this particular company because, well, for two reasons. Number one is I love trains. Trains are very special to me. They've been so special to me for so long, ever since I was really little. I love them. And also because it's the tourism industry. I'm going into hospitality management, and I have been so passionate about the tourism industry for so long, and I'm really, really excited to go into this industry. It's just absolutely perfect for me. So this is the best of two worlds. It's trains and hospitality. So the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad is actually part of a very extensive narrow gauge line. Now, narrow gauge tracks are 3 feet apart instead of your typical 4 feet, 8.5 inches apart. And they did that so they could get through the mountains a lot easier. They could go up really steep grades. It was cheaper to build. So the line from Durango to Silverton, which is the railroad today, was designed to haul silver from Silverton down to Durango, and then trains would take the silver from Durango to different parts on the Rio Grande line. And this was very successful for a long time. It was really, really great, and there was tons of silver, literally tons of silver, that was hauled out of Silverton. So again, this was very successful, but as time went on, the silver boom just slowly started to die out. The silver mines weren't doing as well as they used to. And so after World War II, the Denver and Rio Grande decided to use the railroad as a passenger line. Because after World War II, tourism started to grow and just got really big and popular. And so they decided to use these trains. Instead of hauling silver, they would haul people from Durango up to Silverton and back. And they did this in 1947 for the first time, and they would do this for many, many years. And thanks to some Hollywood movies around the time, the railroad was just so popular with tourists. In 1981, the railroad was sold to a man named Charles Bradshaw Jr. Throughout the 70s, the railroad was just getting kind of tired of running the railroad, and it was just getting expensive, and the equipment was just old and hard to maintain. So they decided to put it up for sale, and Charles Bradshaw Jr., a man from Florida, purchased the railroad in 1981, and he really made a lot of great changes to the railroad. He made a lot of really significant improvements in the 1980s and 1990s that really helped make the railroad what it is today. And then in the late 1990s, the railroad was sold to American Heritage Railways, which owns it today. So there have been a number of challenges over the years that the railroad has faced, some of which have been nature, like this right here. This was a landslide caused by flooding. Flooding is pretty common in the area, and other challenges include wildfires, COVID-19, of course, and then perhaps the most devastating event that took place was a fire that broke out in their roundhouse. Now, the roundhouse housed their steam locomotives. The roundhouse burned down in 1989, and it was just absolutely devastating. It just destroyed all of their locomotives and their tools, caused a lot of damage to their locomotives, but they were able to rebuild everything, and they didn't miss a single scheduled train that year, which is really impressive. It just goes to show that in business with your company, if you have the tenacity, you're able to you can get through anything. And that's what's happened with this railroad multiple times. So the railroad is very, very popular for two reasons. One of which is the incredible views, and another is, well, I'll get to that in a minute. That's my personal favorite. But the incredible views are really incredible. The railroad has actually won a number of really awesome awards over the years, and part of that is because of the views. It goes through the mountains. You can see the train snakes along through the mountains. It goes through beautiful trees and along rivers and creeks. It's just absolutely beautiful. You just don't get views like this everywhere. So really, really awesome. And then another great thing, my personal favorite part of this railroad are the locomotives. They have 3 different types of locomotives. In fact, they have the largest fleet of operating steam locomotives anywhere in the world. And these are original 1920s locomotives. They still pull trains today. They're all originally coal burners. I actually got this lump of coal from Durango when I rode the train in 2019 with my dad. I thought it was kind of cool, so I took it home with me. But pretty neat. I'll talk more about this in a minute, but they were all originally coal burners, and a good chunk of them still burn coal today. But we have K28 on the far left. There's 3 different types, K28. We have a K36 on the right here, and then a K37 on the bottom, which is the biggest. And they have one of these. In fact, the 493 here was just restored to operation in 2020. So looking into the future, we're going to experience some changes with the railroad. In 2018, there was a really nasty wildfire that took place, and a lot of people have blamed the railroad, the coal-burning locomotives. This coal, as cool as it is and as original as it is, can cause fires. So the railroad has been converting their locomotives over to burn oil, which is cheaper and better for the environment and reduces, in fact eliminates, the chance of a wildfire. And so this locomotive right here, which is a K28, is being converted to burn oil. Now this is very expensive and difficult. You can't just go to Home Depot and buy the parts for this. You have to fabricate them. But the project has been going very smoothly, and we're having more and more locomotives. We're seeing more and more become oil burners. The railroad has also purchased a number of diesel locomotives as well to help with the with diversifying the fleet. So in conclusion, I really love this railroad. I think it's just so great. It's really special to me, and I love how they preserve history. I love how they preserve history in such a fascinating way that people come from all over the world to see this and to see these trains. It's absolutely fascinating to me, and I'm excited to see this railroad continue to run for many years, and I hope I can one day be a part of it. Thank you.